hearing that. That's funny. And then I remembered, oh, they're from Boston, aren't they?
Oh,
Aren't they from Boston?
who? Bon Jovi?
Bon
I
Jovi, yeah.
honestly don't.
Oh,
Aerosmith is. I know that. I'm not sure about
Aerosmith.
Bon Jovi.
Yeah, I think Bon Jovi's from Boston. They're either from.
I
They're either
mean,
from. They're either
anyone
from.
who's any all the good folks are from Boston.
No shit,
Not all
right?
the good folks. So many good folks.
I don't know. I can't remember if they're
Hi,
from
everybody.
Boston or they're from Jersey. They might be from Jersey. I can't get the lighting right. Oh God, that's hard to look at. Whew, man.
Everybody.
All right, they're gonna start rolling in here. We got about another minute and 10 seconds, probably. I'm gonna have to get a theme for your shows. I'm not sure what it could be. Boston, no, not Boston. Oh, Boston. Boston. Oh, I know exactly what song it. Well, of course, I can't do it because of copyright.
Right.
But
Can we hum it 10%?
no, it's that one. What is it? Dun dun dun. So there's this song. It's an instrumental at the beginning, and what is the name of the song? Something about. But there's this no word.
All the you mean Boston the band?
Oh yeah. More than a feeling.
But that's not the one. Like there's a lot of good, there's better ones than that.
Well, there's one song that starts out and it's a musical. I mean, it's just a music at the beginning. Then it goes into the song, and I remember. I'm gonna have to get that tune, and it's so me and my friend, we were driving down the road, 18 years old, up in smoke in the car on the way to school, right? And and he narrated it, and it was so cool because we had just gone on the senior ski trip. And so he was like, yeah, and because it has this like really, really powerful, beautiful riff, and then it goes into like this silence and like it's just like a still sound, and then it breaks out into the song, and he goes, yeah, and so he's narrating the song, and he's like, okay, because it has like an ambulance part, and he goes dun 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 dun. So he talks about this guy. He's in a car wreck, and the ambulance comes to get him, and then he dies, and the music comes, and it goes up like a crescendo, just like yeah, and then all of a sudden it starts really rocking out, and he goes, and he's at the top of a mountain, and he's coming down the mountain, and he's got a beer in one hand and a joint in the other, and heaven's a big party.
Wow, I know Boston pretty well. It's funny, you're taking me back to the 80s. I get to see them live a bunch. They played 8 nights in a row at the Worcester Centrum.
Really?
Back in the day.
I saw them at the original Texas Jam.
All right.
Yeah, at the Cotton Bowl. They had this was back in 1979. First Texas Jam. It was an all-day thing. It was a wild, wild party. It was crazy. But they had Heart, they had Boston, Van Halen, Sammy Hagar, Blue Oyster Cult. It was pretty cool.
Oh wow!
So here we are. We're officially at the time when everybody's here.
Hey everybody!
Welcome everybody. Our Soulogy cosmologist is here. I was late. We won't be having 12 o'clock shows. That's for damn sure. I can do the 1 o'clock.
We never go on at 1, Todd. It makes sense.
Yeah, well, I don't go to bed till 7 in the morning.
Yeah,
now. I don't know what
it's all in perfect time. I was telling you, there's a little. Well, when we get to it, there's a little data point that came through, like about the star Arcturus, and that was an important part of what I want to share. So that's good. I had to loop that one in. There's a lot of pieces, a lot of threading going on for the one thing I want to share about today. So.
Well, let's talk about it. Let's do it. The floor is yours.
Cool. Hi, everybody. It's so fun to be with all of you, again today.
Our friend Brittany Marie's here from Alaska. They're 6 hours behind you. So what are they? They're probably 8 o'clock in the morning.
Hi, Brittany. Cool. We have people from all around, all wrapping the globe. It's so awesome. The Soulogy fam, the Soulogy tribe.
Yeah.
So I wanted to so we but we passed the equinox marker on Wednesday, right? And so now cosmologically or astronomically, my sights are set on what's coming for us in the next month in October. And it's a really, really active month of alignments. It's a very like astronomically active month, like superlatively. Like I feel like, and a lot of us have felt this, that the point we're at now, the September through December is like the culmination, integration, collectivization of all the stuff we've been going through the last few years. Mm-hmm. So the 2019 September equinox was a really big catalyst, turning point time. And a lot of things happen in 2-year cycles. So this like point we're in now, this 2-year cycle is, I don't know, it's fun. But so should I just...
how far are we into the 2-year cycle?
Well, for the equinox, we just completed a 2-year cycle from September equinox to September equinox. So we're, the one I'm talking about, I guess we're at the end of it, the culmination. Section.
Okay. So September 2019.
That I've noticed some similarities to the codes coming through this equinox, or they were the finishing. Like sometimes the codes come through, that it takes a lot of calendar time. Like they pour in piece by piece, and then we weave them together over a couple calendar years. Does that make sense for Stargate things?
Yes.
So nobody's brain has to think they have to remember all these things. I am going to do a blog post and a write-up, so I'll have pictures and dates and stuff in so like if this was a class, like you don't have to take notes. There'll be like a cheat sheet that comes along, succinct, and I'll put it underneath this. But so in October, and here I have to pull up my notes because I was trying to remember it all, but I was like, I gotta.
So what happened? You were just, I was late, and then you got a little download in? Is that what happened?
No, I've been seeing all these things for October, and I have yet to put them down in writing. So I have so I use a Sky app on my phone called Sky Safari.
Sky Safari.
So people ask me about it a lot. Maybe 1 out of 1,000 times of my use of it is it like under the night sky, like looking up at something. Like I don't use it to see I don't use it to look at the sky. Like I use it on land in my office. Like I use it as a tool to like cast and look forward at things that are coming my way. Does that make sense? Like I mostly use it to like look at the alignments, and then I don't know of a lot of people, like things show themselves to me or like dates and times, and then I dive in a little bit more, if that makes sense. So that's, so I'll just start with October. Last time we were on chatting about it, we were talking about the sun in its annular cycle around the zodiac is moving now into the constellation of Virgo, right? So we're in the Virgo codes and time. And last time we talked, I was talking about how I was using Virgo. Like she's often depicted as a goddess holding a staff of wheat. And so she's like the goddess of harvest in a lot of traditions. But I was equating her with, or using her stand-in as Lady Liberty, like the Statue of Liberty. And in one of her hands, like either is a staff of wheat, golden wheat, or you could think of it as her torch.
The torch she lights under your ass.
And then, that fiery, and like liberty as the, pursuit of freedom codes that we're all in right now, right? And so Spika is a star, one of the brighter stars in the constellation of Virgo, but that sits, if she was the lady, it sits at her left hand. And if we keep using that analogy of the Statue of Liberty, in the Statue of Liberty's left hand is the record keeping, the book. And on that Statue of Liberty, it has in Roman numerals, has the date of July 4th, the 1776. But that part's not as important to this. But I just see like the star Spika as like the record keeper, or like the book, or you could say Akashic records. Some people would say like the place where we hold the codes and keep the records. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that star Spika has been getting a lot of activity. So it is along the ecliptic, meaning the ecliptic is the path of the sun as it moves through the sky. So every year as we go through this September, October time, the sun and moves its way through the constellation Virgo. So what's different year to year is what other planets accompany it, right? Like who's in the neighborhood. And when we talk about who's in the neighborhood, I'm talking about like looking up as if the sky itself was an observatory that you were in, or like a planetarium, right? So we look up at the night sky and we'll see certain things aligned to each other or like near each other. Conjunctions, change year to year because the planets all have this interactive web and weaving and spherical dance they do together. So that star Spica has the sun, the moon, Mars, Mercury, and Venus have moved by the tablets, if you will, of liberty, or the book of freedom. So September 21st, and September 22nd, these aren't exact dates there because they're stellar alignments. They don't confine to our calendar. But in that zone, the 21st, 22nd, Mercury was with Spica. So that's just this week. And now on its course, Mercury is going to move like a little bit. So if like Spica the star was here and Mercury was under it. So Mercury's moving a little bit each day in relation to the star Spica. And then it's going to pause and reverse its course, which is what people call a retrograde, right? It's because of how the Earth orbit is with Mercury, and the planets that are closer to the sun than the Earth do a different dance in the sky than the planets that are far from the sun. Does that make sense? So anyway, Mercury's doing a little dance. So on September 27th, it like pauses like it's a pendulum and then swings back, moving the other direction. So it's going to come again and sweep by Spica October 1st again. We get 2 Mercury Spica alignments within a couple weeks.
Sounds like that's some kind of be on your toes zone.
It's like how did Tuesday it's, and they don't necessarily, the alignments don't necessarily do the same thing. It's sort of like it comes, it pings, it moves past, and then it sweeps by again. So almost like the first time it like, I'm using this word, I didn't make it up, but I love it, and I'm going to make it like popular again or more popular. Galactivate instead of activate. It's a galactivation. It like sparks your galactic codes, your star codes.
I saw that word. I did it the last solo I did 2 or 3 nights ago. I was reading off of this post this lady did, and I had the lady that posted the post sent me the website of the lady that wrote the post, which was really interesting. But that's what the write-up was entitled. She said that it was called a galactivation. And she was just talking about all the different things that we might be experiencing, which would be in general terms, converging timelines, hopping timelines, and just some of the things that would be happening to the human's consciousness. So that's interesting.
Cool. Yeah, I love that word. It's like, because it combines, galactic and activate. It's like galactivation. So, and then star codes do that for me. They had like, it's a little different than like but like a solar light code activation. So yeah, I'll keep going through the dates and then we can chat about it a little more. So so Mercury is pinging Spica. It did on Tuesday, Wednesday. It was the same day as the equinox, which I found interesting because Mercury has that shares some of that equinox, like balance point, like some energy of like Libra and balance point. Anyway, then Mercury is swinging by Spica again on October 1st. And then the next date that's really a standout date for me is October 6th is the new moon. And on that same time, Mars, like so Mars is coming close. So Mars and Mercury are going to come close together in a few days from there. Mars conjuncts the sun on October 7th. And then Mercury conjuncts Mars October 9th. Mercury conjuncts the sun that same day, October 9th. So I'm going to say all this again. So October 1st is Mercury with Spica. Then we have the new moon. And then Mars conjuncting the sun on the 7th. And then Mercury conjuncts Mars the same day it conjuncts the sun, which is October 9th. So that's like Mercury, the sun, and Mars all together is
It sounds like it's going to be really calm and everyone's going to be doing great.
Yeah, it's going to be different. I'm not, you know me well. Like, I'm not someone to say like, oh, that's happening, so it means this.
Right.
The truth is, and a lot of the astrology stuff about the planets are old news, or like, it's useful to build on. But Mars and Mercury are ascending just like the Earth is too. Every planet in the solar system is ascending like the Earth right now.
Yeah, everything's changing.
What the crystalline coding of Mars and Mercury are is really different than the old parables. Does that make sense? Yeah. So I don't even like to say like, there's all these things that we repeat to each other about the planets, and they don't have to be true anymore.
I'm with you on that. And I just got a big loud tone of confirmation. But I've been saying, I feel that way. I feel like it was like like clues basically, but things change.
Or it's,
like you said, everything is ascending, which is
like the crystalline construct of Venus is really different than the older, or like these, that's all upgrading. So that's all like October 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th. Those are cool days. Lots of good alignments happening. But then at the same time, on October 8th through 10th, the Draconi meteor showers, the Draconids, are hitting too. So then I was like, oh, we're getting like meteor showers on top of all that. So it's just like spark, 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 spark. And the thing that I said came through. I knew there was another ping in my research I had done a couple months ago about October 6th. Like I kept seeing that date. And I went to go look and see what that was. So that's what I needed your extra time today. So thank you to loop that in. So Arcturus is rising with the sun on that day too. So a cosmic rising is when on the eastern horizon at sunrise, a star or a planet rises with the sun. So that's happening for Arcturus, October 6th. So basically the Arcturus, the moon, and the sun all rise together on that day. So that just has a lot of auspicious, and it's codes to it. And I think a lot of us hear from Arcturus, and Arcturus is moving into like one of its gateways in October is when it's this time, when it's close to the sun. And we just get a lot. So when a planet is near another planet, or especially when a star or a planet is near the sun, we get a lot more of that information. Like we hear a lot more of those star codes. We feel them more in our light body because it's like the sun is broadcasting double codes. Yeah. Sometimes people talk about like they see the two suns, or Arcturus and the sun aren't near each other in the sky. But anyway, so there's an Arcturus gateway that's opening while all this other stuff's going on.
Well, Arcturus, the Arcturians are a big player.
Yeah.
For us.
So some people will, I've liked your recent shares about the, whatever, the channeling or the this or that. And some people will go into like that coding of like, oh, I'm hearing from the Arcturians, and they'll start like channeling and doing that. And that's fine. That's cool. But like a lot of us, all of us, you don't have to be a channeler. Like you are whoever's listening to these words right now, you are going to be feeling stuff from Arcturus. And it depends how it comes through for you. It can bounce off and you don't have to pay attention to it. That's fine. But like a lot of code and content will be coming our way. But I'll share about that more as it comes. People want to follow me on Facebook. I do lots of sharing there. So that's happening. And then I noticed the meteor showers too coming in. So that's a bunch of things. So that's that week, the single digits of October. There's more. Are you ready? And then more. So we move. So the sun is going to move next to Spika, that record-keeping star, I'm calling it, on October 17th. So I'll put these pictures up because it's hard. I think if I share my phone, it'll either not look good or it'll look backwards. But I was looking on my Starfinder app and watching. I was like, okay, what date, when I was doing this several months ago, looking at these alignments, I was like, what date does the sun actually come next to Spika? Because for me, like, I think one of my roles as like you call me cosmologist, I don't go on websites and find this information anywhere except mine. It's like my job to like put all these parts together and put them in a thing for anyone else that cares about this stuff so they can easily find it. Because I don't see websites that have like Spika alignments with the things. You know, it's
Right.
just not like it's a nuanced thing that I don't think a lot of people pay attention to. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, or it's just I'm finding it on my own. So I'm looking at my star finder and I'm going through and looking at these dates, and there's this like giant like comet, bright light that is coming to the sun on October 16th. And the day that the Spica sun alignment, this like white flash has come through, and I've never seen on, you know, all the years I've been looking at the Starfinder thing. It like comes in and it like it makes like the screen look white. I was like,
kidding.
well, what the heck is that?
Well, what is it? What is it?
So it's this little, so it's 342p SOHO, whatever the blip that means. So I'm going to explain a little bit what SOHO is. So SOHO is a telescope, basically a satellite telescope that is up in orbit between the Earth and the sun. And its job is to look at the heliosphere. So the heliosphere, so SOHO means, I know I wrote it down because I keep forgetting. It's like Solar and Heliospheric Observatory.
Yeah, Solar Observatory.
Yeah. So it is parked between Earth and the sun, and its job is to look at the sun.
Right.
And it has like, you see a lot of the pictures that we see about solar eruptions and stuff have that like dark disk, because you can't point a telescope at the sun because it'll get all burned out, right? So they put a disk up to block most of the sun, and they look at the corona or the outline of the sun, and they see the edges. So there's been thousands of small comets discovered in the last 20 years or so, or maybe it's 2004, whatever, in the last couple of decades.
Right.
They've discovered like 4,000 new little comets that we wouldn't necessarily know about. They're not the like big like Halley's Comet or the Hale-Bopp. They're not those kind. They're much smaller. So anyway, this 342p SOHO is coming. So when the sun gets to Spica, this comet is coming, and like they're all meeting together. And it's just a couple days, and Mercury and Mars are still there because, you know, they're all exact aligned on October 9th, 10th, but then they're still in the neighborhood, right? So there's like all these alignments of Mars, Mercury, Sun, and this and Spica, and this comet that comes through.
I wonder what this is going to. Well, obviously, it represents that we're going to have some powerful energy coming.
There's like illumination of liberty.
Illumination of liberty, and then because Spica is Spica. Did you say the record? You called it the record, the tablet?
That's what I'm calling. If I'm taking
so I mean, to me, it's not just
and overlaying the Statue of Liberty. It's like
but like an illumination of liberty, but an illumination of our history, right? Like you know what I mean? Because to me, I know on a personal level, and even just looking at things lately in the field with people, there are a lot of memories coming in. There's a lot of flashes of, I guess, what we would call legitimate Earth history, you know, and then that just resonates.
Yeah. So this all happened for me this morning as I was weaving together what I wanted to talk to you about, how it wove into this thing. And it was like, it wove to me, even with your Morgan and you, have you been using the octahedron lately?
Yeah.
So because I was looking at this comet, who I pay attention to things like this, but I'd never really paid attention to 3420, whatever, P SOHO. It's like, that's not, there's thousands of them. It's not that important in general, but because it's coming on this day, I went into my geek mode and I was like, well, SOHO, what is that? And I just started reading about it. Right. So the SOHO space telescope is parked at what's called the Lagrange point. So there are these points in it. If you look at two celestial bodies, and here we're looking at the sun and the earth, there are like parking spots that you can put things in orbit where they won't get pulled on by gravity or magnetism. That are good like parking spots for things. So one of them is between the earth and the sun, and then one of them is on the other side of the earth. So they park the satellites that they want looking at the sun between the earth and the sun, because it is constantly looking at the sun. The earth will never come in between it. They put the ones on the other side, like Gaia and some of the other ones are on the other side of the earth, because they're looking out into space. And so that the sun will never block their view. They're looking towards the dark of space. So there's those 2 Lagrange points. I wonder if it'll show up. I drew it out a little bit for you.
Hang on, let me there you go. So what's the pyramid?
Well, that's what I'm gonna move to that next. And I put a picture of it under. So
sun and the earth.
This is where the SOHO. So these Lagrange points they popped to me this morning. I was like, oh, these are the 0 points. So if you're taking relationship like between any 2 people or between any 2 celestial bodies or even between like viewpoints of different things, it's like these are the stable places. Or like there's always more than one 0 point. And I think in the Soulogy community, because you and Morgan guide and direct the conversation a lot about the Soulogy community, 0 point has been coming up a ton, right?
Yeah.
That's like a thing we're all about these days, right? But these 0 points, it kind of showed it to me in this like geometric thing. And then that it was like an octahedron. I was like, oh, that's that octahedron Todd and Morgan have been talking about.
Let me see it again.
This is just my quickie drawing. I have a better drawing of it.
Oh, I see.
If you go like that way.
I see the
octahedron. This place. No, oops, I'm all backwards and forwards. Yeah. So this is where SOHO is parked to look at all the solar observatory stuff. This is that other point I was talking about. And there are 2 other Lagrange points that are really stable, like up here and down here. And then this one over here, way over here, is the one that's like all the way on the opposite side of the sun, and we never see it actually. Like it's the Earth and the sun. It's like that point where in space that we never see behind the sun. And so the part that came through, and I hope I can articulate it well, that was cool to share, and it has to do with timelines. I was like, oh, anyone could be sitting in their 0 point at any one of these 5 or 10 different spots that like they're at 0 point and they're stable and they're in their own truth. But someone can be parked at the other parking spot and they're also stable. They're in their own truth. They're in their own field of trueness. And they're looking at things from a totally different angle.
Exactly.
But it's all true and it's all 0 point. So it's like there's the multidimensionality of 0 point is what came to me from this comet.
That's that's a really good metaphor, because we think of a 0 point, we might think of it as a circle within a circle, or we might think of it as a soul highway, as just a lane.
Or as like there's only one for any given reality.
That's what I mean. Like, well,
what if there's a handful or more? There's multi.
Why wouldn't there be if it's multidimensionality, especially if you have universal seeding? Now, so I wrote a lot of funny memes, or there was tempted to be funny, because I was trying to make light of all this incredible code coming in. I know people are going through a lot of stuff. I was telling you, I really actually have had it really easy. The body's taken a bit of a toll at times. But what I was going to say is one of the ones, because I was contemplating, as we're all doing. And I was like, wait a minute. What if the 0 point field is where we're both right and we're both wrong? From a perspective.
This is that point where like your voice, I was like, oh, this is what I should, this is that moment where I was like, this is what I should talk to Todd about today.
And here's the other.
It's like speaking my language of like geeky NASA stuff, your language of, but this is how we translate between the.
Yeah. And here's the other confirmation. I was in the kitchen after I talked to you and realized I was an hour late. And I don't know why this came in my head. So I turned the coffee on. I got my first glass of juice and I'm drinking that. And I thought, I'm going to contact ZZ Top. And I'm going to ask them if I can use the music from Lagrange. And you're sitting here talking. I swear to God, I swear to you. So these little pieces, and like what you just described, number one, octahedron shape. Okay. Number two, the multi-dimensionality, or let's even say multi-locale of the 0 point field, which totally makes sense to me, because if we're coming from all over the multiverses, right? We would have to have different specialties or lineages or purposes. And just by virtue of that, we're not going to have the same perspective, just like us as human beings, as above below and as below above.
And so even, so we're in this solar system right now. Well, mostly. Our human bodies are supposedly on Earth in this solar system that we know about. So if we talk about like these 0 points, it's between Earth and the sun. Those are those 5 points that I was talking about, the Lagrange points.
Right.
And that's just, so that's like, there'll be different ones for Venus. There's different ones for Earth and the moon. There's different ones for all the planets that orbit the sun. Right. So you can have like I'm coming from an Earth centric point of view and I have all these 0 points. I'm coming from a Venus centric point of view. And then think about, how many stars there are. And like some of them are binary stars. So a binary star system would have a whole different equation of how they derive the Lagrange points and like the stability, like the amount of 0 points that exist as balance points is truly infinite beyond infinite.
Yeah.
And it's like everyone's stable in their orbit or their truth or their reality. And it's like they're all correct and they're all accurate.
And then also that the 0 points themselves are in fact in motion.
Right. The whole thing is in motion.
Right. So everything is. Yeah. And that's another thing too. I did a little research because I saw a post or a website that made me start thinking. And it had to do with the heliosphere, and then what do they call it when it's geocentric? So heliocentric, where the sun is the center of it all, or geocentric, where the Earth is.
Right.
And I saw this post and took me to a website, and then I started researching. It's like 20 minutes, and found out that people like Einstein, like they still don't know. Like, you know what I mean? Some of them would say that it makes more sense that the Earth is. And some may say that it makes more sense that the sun is.
Some equations balance better for certain
I know. And so
scientists.
What I got from it, and I'm just as a layman, because there was one quote, and I think it was Einstein, or one of his contemporaries, and they were basically saying, in a certain way, they were saying, we don't really know. This is where, like, almost like where science meets spirit. Like, it's that, $1 billion question, which I thought was really interesting.
Well, it's really just the 1600s or so. And it's, so for most of, human time on Earth is the observation skill set was with our eyeballs. Right. And then when Galileo invented he used a looking glass / telescope. The first time he put that in a long tube with glass on either side, then humanity could look at the star codes in a whole different way. Like our technology that we as a species use to communicate with other stars changed drastically with that use of those lenses and glass. And then since Galileo's time, then I'm pretty sure it was Copernicus, that revolution that you're talking about, between the geocentric and the heliocentric. It's like, that, and the church played a part in keeping the geocentric model. It's like the Earth is in charge of everything, right? And so they sort of parallels what we're going through now, right? Like whoever funds the research is who directs the research, whoever pays. So the church would pay the science, say, like, who's going to feed the scientists while they do this work, right? Who's going to feed Soulogy while they preach the gospel or whatever, right? So it's like whoever funds the research, that's why, like, anyway, we could go on about that. But but
it goes back to what you said too about the 0 points. The multiplicity of the 0 points.
So I'm going to loop it into timelines. Yeah. So there's a point where I was looking. So I was like, I had that piece come through this morning that, like, these Lagrange points are those 0 points. And then the timeline, I was like, oh, and so whatever one you're at. So this is why I was reading about the one that's on the other side of the sun. So I was like, oh, that's for all those people that are so righteous in their Planet X, Narubu, like all that stuff that, like, I don't spend a lot of time with personally because it's just not in my wheelhouse. I was like, that's where that reality sits, because like there is a reality point of like there's something on the other side of the sun, and people, you know, assign it sometimes nefarious things, or on the other side of the moon, you know, all that like stuff. I was like, oh, because they're fueling these timelines from that vantage point, from that zero point. So it doesn't mean that they're wrong. It just means like they're looking at it from a different way. So I brought out my like helio, the timeline-y thing. So it's like whatever viewpoint, like we can turn it and be like, okay, this is the timeline that you're on, right? Because timelines are really like trajectories in space, if you will, or different. It's like, but it's also your attention and your words and your thoughts and your energy. Like you unfurl a timeline that you want to live on. Like you open up your reality with your words and your thoughts, right? So it's like where you're sitting from, and then like it's like, oh, I'm going to give a lot of my time, my attention, my fuel, my energy to creating and recreating this certain timeline, and then you can always dial in to the one you want more succinctly.
Makes sense.
I feel like this October is that. So if I could nutshell it, it's like all these October gateways, and I could give you dates and things. It's like we're getting these meteor showers, which give a lot of plasma codes. We're having these alignments with the stars and the planets. And it's like that liberty thing. It's all to like, it's really, really choice point for all of us. It's like, what reality are you dialing into? What are you giving your time to, your talk to, your thought to, your energy to?
Yeah. What do you want? What do you want? Right.
All right. Can I geek through a few other dates? So I get to like October 18th. So October 18th, 19th, and then the 20th, 21st, the Orionid meteor showers sizzle in the sky.
God,
so like all that's happening. Then we have the Orionids. Mars goes with Spika. New moon on November 3rd is Mercury and Spika. I can't even go into November because October's too big. We'll have other times. But it's like
that's what I'm saying.
All that's happening.
This is a very busy month you're talking about, October.
It is. It's busy for people that want to geek out with me and play star codes, but we're all gonna, whether you want to geek out about it or not, it's like I feel like it's gonna be in your face and in your field. So for me, it's helpful to like, it's helpful to like take a big picture view, because I realize like, you know, the universe does have our back. It's like we do have like there's energies in these waves we can ride to affect change in our own lives and make our lives better and more joy filled. And like, that's for me what any of these alignments would be about anyway. It's like, how can we use them for our own betterment and for the lives of people around us and our loved ones? So the comet things really made me, reminded me that it's like, it's a plasma stream or like plasma information. So a comet is like a ball of rock and ice, basically. And the comets, so the P for the 342P means periodic, meaning they come back around to visit the sun in, you know, a certain amount of years, and they're all different. But when a comet comes from deep, deep out in space, it just stays inert. It's dirt, ice, frozen in the dark space. It's when the comet comes near the sun that all the action takes place. So that's when the codes spark. They melt, you know, the ice melts a little bit. So that water stuff is really like the code of life is in that water.
Wow.
Like it like seeds our solar system with stuff from outside the solar system.
It's almost like dormant until it comes, right?
Yes. And so a comet, and that one that I was talking about in October, we're not going to be able to see it. It's really small and it's right by the sun. So don't look for it in the night sky. But there are like comets come to us, and sometimes they come and we can see them in the night sky. But then sometimes what happens is the solar system or the Earth is on its cosmic journey, drives through the debris field. So that's a meteor shower. So what's the difference between a comet and a meteor shower? A meteor shower is the Earth's magnetosphere, the Earth's atmosphere, grazing across, or a meteor coming down and grazing into the Earth's atmosphere, and it lights up. Like that's the quick, you know, shooting star quality. And then there's also comets that we see, and they'll be like in the night sky for like weeks or months. We haven't had one of those in a while, but the last one I think was 2020, 2019. But anyway, all comets deliver plasma, or they're their tails contain tons of plasma. So when they go through that action of coming near the sun, they start to off gas. And they have two tails, actually. One tail that's like the dust and debris, and one that's more the light codes. So anyway, there's a lot of like plasmarific, and it all comes into our light body as humans, like to the light body of the planet Earth. But we get these like sparkly, it's almost like, when you hold a sparkler at 4th of July, we'll bring it back to 4th of July, like those little, they don't like totally burn you, but you feel those weird little zings on your hands and arms.
I've been feeling a lot of that lately, by the way. In my fingers and my feet. I don't know, is there a lot of plasma in the air now?
There is over here. We just had lightning storms today. But yeah, that's part of it's good to say this. I think part of what humanity has been going through for the last few years is like upgrades to our respiratory system so that we can breathe more plasma. So there's upsides, there's timelines where things are different for different people. But this is like a planetary upgrade that we're going through right now that has a lot to do with like the heliosphere, that word corona. It's like, how can we're becoming more like solar beings too. And like solar beings don't breathe oxygen. They kind of breathe plasma in and out.
Wow. It's exciting.
So
it really is.
It is exciting.
And I love this thing about the multiplicity of the 0-point field, which only makes sense. And in truth, like you said at the end of that part of it, it's actually infinite, isn't it?
Right. So you have more respect for another person and be like, oh, they're at their 0 point over there in their stable orbit, and I'm in mine over here, and it's like, it's cool. We're all cool. We're all orbiting the same planet. We're all hanging out in the same spot.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, exactly. Like, and then I'm thinking about this while you're explaining all this, and I'm going, how in the hell can all of these celestial bodies, be it a comet or an asteroid field or a planet or a star or whatever, or a moon, how can they all be moving and never collide? Now, I know there must be some collisions. I'm not saying that there's not, but then I look at that and go and throw that on top of the multiplicity, multi-locations, whatever you want to call it, of the 0-point field, and how we have all of our own perspectives. And there's almost, you have to say, like a universal law, like a universal geometry or something that directs traffic, that, like you said, the universe has our back, right? So it just seems like, it all comes down to watching these things or listening to you talk about them. They don't infringe on each other. They don't collide. They don't go out of their way to make trouble, right? You know what I mean? If it's a natural process, it's a natural process. But it's interesting how you pull that down to us here on the Earth, having different perspectives, and the old adage of put yourself in someone else's shoes, kind of thing, can do a lot. And especially the one like you said about the observatory that's on the other side of the sun, or the satellite that's on the other side of the sun that we never see, and then tying that with the people that are real big on two suns and Nibiru, because you see that out there. They're adamant about it. They take pictures. They take pictures of it, and I'm like, I never see this. What does that mean? It's weird.
Yeah, different vantage points for different.
Somebody said we live in a giant clock, like clockwork. Yeah, there's some truth to that.
So October is full of fun.
October sounds. No, this is. I'm gonna because of you. I'm gonna be well armed with Franco today. I'm kidding. There's some people who know I'm kidding, but Franco, Jason, and one of the reasons I don't really resonate with a lot of these forecasts is because I can't say this about Franco though, because that's his aren't like that. But where they're like, okay, we've reached the promised land now, everything's great, and then the next month, it's like another round comes in. Oh yeah, you're going to be, you're going to be getting hit hard this month, and you know,
well, if we just go back to like the different, everyone's at a different balance point or different zero point. It's like that doesn't resonate for me either. And I'm not one to like talk about like, oh, this is happening. I would never assume that what's happening for me is what's happening for everybody.
That's a great point.
Because it's not, and I don't really like to, and just because we talk about days, like some gatekeepers, like something will be happening on September 22nd, but there are people that are like feeling it for weeks, months even, or weeks or years earlier. It's like, so sometimes it's like taking in slivers of the information prior. And then some like people that'll feel it after. That is true too. But also like everyone is allowed their own, it should be self-interpreted. Like the data could be out there, but how we interpret it and how we want to live by it and how we want to live with it.
Well,
it's like in our to each soul.
Yeah, in our life path too. Like where have we been? What's our perspective? And again, if you use your work as a basis. I mean, I remember when I was at Soulogy Fest and Franco and Jason met each other, and all you got to do is look at them. They're both ETs, right? And I said I wanted to know what it was like when y'all met each other, and they recognized each other, but they recognized also they were from different parts of the multiverse, right? So that's kind of, oh, you froze. Julie, come back. Man, you would never think that the stuff she talks about, I mean, it took me a long time to really take it in. You could connect it to, you back? You're back now.
I'm back. Who's gone? You or me?
you were gone. You were gone. No, I was just saying how when Franco and Jason were at Soulogy Fest, I said, what happened in the moment y'all met each other? And because I mean, you're both obviously ETs. I mean, they definitely have some similarity to them, although you can see the distinction between them.
Well, that's what I was saying when I went frozen. I said, we're all ETs, Todd. All of us.
Oh, I know. But I'm just saying their makeup. You know what I mean? Like you can see something similar to them. They have kind of not the same, but and they were just saying that they recognized each other, but they also recognize they're from different parts of the multiverse. So I look at your work and I say, this is amazing, because I would have never thought that I would, because I look at it, oh, that's just an overlay. It's just part of the game. But there's actually some type of mutual dance that's happening, in my opinion. Almost like each one of us represents one of those things there, or maybe a set, of maybe a star system, or whatever it may be, and that it isn't just happening to us. It's actually quantum in regard to both, let's just say a star, my relationship with a specific star. Okay. Like I'm getting code, it's getting code. You know what I mean? Like there's some type of equal energy exchange. Let's put it that way. For
sure.
But I love the way that you pull down this information and bring it to the human level, where you can take something like this thing about the observatories and these different points of the 0 point, and you can have, and we do have, different perspectives, different lineages, different life paths, yet we're all in the 0 point field.
And because you're talking about different, the word like galactic origins or different star system origins, that like our light bodies are all constructed differently also. So like there's different geometric code. Like I've seen this for a while. Like I think one of the reasons, we're the human beings here, like in our solar system, the basis for life is oxygen. And it's cool that the oxygen molecule has 8 orbiting electrons. And isn't it cool that our sun also has 8 orbiting planets? So like our basis for code of life here in this solar system, as far as we know, is oxygen based. But in other star systems, it's based on a much different geometry, different. So it's like the light body. It's even goes beyond like different languages.
Yeah.
Like it's like the encodements and like what you're talking about, like that cross coding and connection is like. It's almost like, like the dog whistle, like certain people can hear certain pitches or certain different frequencies. Yes. Like some of us hear things, like we're all going to hear things, feel things, experiencing things. They're going to ping our light bodies differently. So the same amount of information or the same data, info, can pour into your light body and light being. And it's going to, you're just going to interpret in your field a whole different way than it is for mine.
Yeah, it's like you eat mashed potatoes and they taste a certain way, and I eat them and they taste different for me. Or you like them more, or I like them more. And then you just said something else that's weird. So you said that there's 8 planets, there's 8 whatever in an oxygen molecule or whatever, and we're sitting here talking about octahedrons the last few weeks.
Yeah.
So
8 is like the kind of the code of life in that we know it.
Yes.
The 8,
Yeah. And then something else you were talking about earlier was the 6, what is it? The 421 or what was it? 432.
Oh, the comet 342P.
342. That equals a 9, right?
Oh, cool, Todd. I like it.
Yeah, because the 9 is the last number out, the last master number, mortal master number, as I understand it. And the 9 is completion, right? Like, I don't know. You're like freaking me out about October now. So,
and it's all good though. I mean, it is. It does feel like it's going to be power packed because I know I said earlier that we don't necessarily. We have to allow for the planets to have their upgraded forms too. But we can also look at like, Mars is traditionally like a planet of like lower root chakra, sacral chakra. Like it's a lot of like, it's lava. There's a lot of volcanic action. It has more of that like deep core, like fiery core quality to it. And
that would be me.
And Mercury, the Mercury is going to be very so Mars and Mercury are doing
what's Mercury do?
We can add more.
Can Mercury? We add more?
What?
Can you add what?
So Mercury and Mars are conjuncting 3 times. They did it in August because I was talking about the Mercury, like kind of like a pendulum.
Yeah.
Mercury retrogrades. Like, so August 18th, Mercury and Mars are together. They're coming together October 9th again, and then November 10th.
Yeah,
so it's like a trio.
They just can't keep their hands off each other.
So I was calling it like a dance between Mercury, Mars, and Venus has been involved all year too. But why did I bring that back up? Because you were talking about something about the planets, and then Mercury. You asked what Mercury tends to be. So Mercury is like the quicksilver. Mercury is like thought and connection and kind of like Mercury and like, you remember the old thermometers that one would use and they break and there was like that quicksilver, that like the Mercury substance is very slippery and movable and connectable. And it's like, it's like messenger of the gods.
Yeah. Both.
So that is the traditional interpretation. Yeah.
I always had this fascination with Mercury when I was a kid. I remember that. And there was something else I was going to tell you that I don't even know why I'm telling you this.
Tell me.
But
love it.
So over the last couple of weeks, what's weird is I have these faint memories. Okay. And when you have it come in, then you start to remember all the ones that are connected to it that you forgot about. And what I'm talking about is off-planet incarnations. And they're coming in more and more. And something you talked about today. Oh, the illumination of the notepad of the tablet, like the book of life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the illumination of it in these celestial movements. But it was, I was thinking about this the last few days because it's happened, and I'm going, wait a minute. I remember this and I remember that, but the one thing that really stood out is I remember being on, because you were talking about some planets, the primary method is through oxygen here, and then somewhere it might be somewhere else. And with stuff like that, I was remembering. But the main thing I remembered was everywhere, at least anything I can remember through these faint memories, that they were boring. I don't want to say boring, but they were nothing like where we're at. I remember going, okay, well, here are the rules. I can move 10 degrees that way and 18 degrees that way. And there's this element of playground. And I just remember being very, like, almost frustrated. Like, man, this is boring. This is like kids games. I want to go do something that's really, really expansive. And I don't know, just through this period that we've all just gone through, it seems to be pretty. It was pretty intense, right? You had a full moon, you had an equinox, you've got these other celestial things that are dancing around. You just said they conjuncted on the 18th. I mean,
that was August.
August, okay.
Yeah, but
okay. Well, anyway, there was a lot going on.
Yeah, the moon.
Yeah, I mean, and at the human level, there seemed to be a lot going on. Man, I got a message from a close friend of mine at 6:00 this morning. I don't know anything about what they were talking about. And it was pretty crazy. It really was. I was like, what? And I'm not picking on that person or anyone. I'm just saying that it was a really powerful time. Really powerful time.
So do you know about the equinox cracks in the magnetosphere of the Earth? Like, there's a way that how the Earth is tilted in relation to the sun and on its orbit, and the way the alignment of equinox, the like north poles, like basically there's fissures in the Earth's magnetic shield, and then around the equinox times they get a little bit wider and they let in more like cosmic rays and information. Like, there's more chinks in the armor, if you will, of the magnetosphere of the planet. So we get more, things just get a little more encoded. And even like you were talking about the timelines, the equinox times act like one of those funnel points, like a passageway that gets really squeezed. So the timelines have been getting very, very close together. So you talked about people from the past, and then you talk about the even past incarnations, maybe in different star systems. Like, all of it gets more accessible, but it's also can be like loud and a little bit overwhelming to some of us too. It's like, it's all kind of like, it feels like everything's like collapsing or conjuncting into this like one moment in time. But it's like you can hear, or people like think of each other more. There's just like a way that we're a little more all together, if that makes sense. The timelines.
I didn't know about all this. You know what? I listening to you now, and as it makes more and more sense, and having read plenty of times that light is information, light is code, that type of thing, frequency, light, such that where do you find people, science or platforms of any, from a human standpoint, substantial size, talking about this, such as what you just talked about with the equinox and the cracks in the Earth, and how more comes in? You know what I mean? I don't see that out there. You hear about whatever we hear about. I mean, the stupid things. Like the Chinese.
We're talking about it right now.
I know, but I mean, you would think that would be.
Yeah,
like,
and it feels like that's the wave of our future that we're going to move.
It would make sense. I mean, if we could,
more mainstream, like when the information about like the light body and how important that is gets more in everyone's vernacular.
Yeah, because like, okay, if we can position a satellite in a solar system, and we could stick it in a parking space where it's not going to be impeded or it's not going to collide with anything, that's some serious physics and some serious math and geometry. That's serious.
Right.
Okay. But if we can do that, then you can't tell me that we can't look into light waves and frequency and photon, you know what I mean? Photonic light, whatever, and break it down and not see what that information is. Like,
it's coming.
Come on. And I'm not a
scientist. It's in our telomeres and our DNA, and but it is, this is going to tie it through. It's like there's two people. This is what I see is like the science people are over there at their their balance point, and they're having a conversation amongst themselves. And a lot of people that are, it's like we have to make those bridges between the communication streams, if you will.
Yeah.
Like it's one of the things that I do. I feel like it's like, so we can be over in the new agey or whatever you want to call it, that like energy side of things. Yeah. But it's like, we're all kind of looking at, when are we going to all sit at the same table and have the same discussion?
So like, for instance, like Arcturus is making a move. You just went over at the first part of the show. Like, if we have the capability to do like what I was just talking about with a satellite, could we not? We certainly could figure out what type of coding Arcturus has and what to expect when it's available and so on.
Right.
It'd be like no different than sending some type of exploring robot to the surface of Arcturus and studying the soil or the atmosphere, right? We know this stuff, right? I mean, science knows it, but like, I don't see it in mainstream but I can see now why your stuff's so important. And I've always known it was. I just didn't know what the hell you were talking about. But each time we get together, it makes more and more sense.
Well, so what do you mean? Like, so Arcturus as a star?
Like, say Arcturus spoke to me.
Yeah.
At this time of the year, 2018, 2019, and I didn't mention it earlier, but it did. And I've talked about 5D commerce. That's where I got it from. All right. So like, let's just say, for example, Arcturus is the abundance specialist of the solar system. So I'm just saying that, like, I'm sure that it's probably been done already. It's not just coming through people and their connection to infinite intelligence, but even at a scientific level, to study the photonic light from Arcturus, or to study the wavelengths or the frequency, and to be able to translate that into how that affects us and how we can utilize it.
So that's very interesting, because Arcturus, a couple Junes ago, I had a very like sacred download from that star myself, and it was very much about metallics, gold code. Like, but so you said it was a coin thing. It was like a money thing for you.
Yeah, it was.
And like lots of resource. And so one of the things, like, so I found this very interesting back then, and I've kind of forgot about it. So thank you. Arcturus it's actually not. It's in our galaxy, but it's not of our galaxy. Like Arcturus is from a whole different galactic stream. It's like two galaxies. Our galaxy back billions more years ago absorbed or collided with another galaxy.
Right.
So to me, Arcturus energy has a lot to do with like mining for resource, not necessarily mining, but like the star is on its like down cycle. So like stars can produce and make a lot of like gold and like metallics in their core when they're in the active fusion part of their journey. And it's like Arcturus is its star system, like on its decline, like sort of devoid, or like it's kind of used up all of its resource. And so it was kind of like coming more on like a, some of the intergalactic travel we hear about is like looking for more resource on different places. That makes sense. But it's like the metallic-y codes of Arcturus. And Arcturus has a very loving's not quite the right word, but just like pure source code, like here, like nourishment quality. Like that's goes with that metallic-y essential.
No, that feels right. And that actually I've seen a lot of people write about that, but yeah, that's one of the things that I associate with it is like, I can only put it in human terms. It's like this pure, unconditional love. Like this.
Yeah. And it's just, I've heard a lot of people say that. Like for me, what, Arcturians, like they do a lot of also sound coding. And, yeah, it's interesting. So I'll let people, if you want to open up to like listening to your own interpretation, like this October time is a time where we get a lot of this Arcturian activity. Oh, that's the other piece of it. So when the sun goes close to one of the stars, we don't see it in the night sky. So you're not going to be able to go look for Arcturus in the sky right now. It's coding with the sun. So the sun will be sending Arcturus streams. But then the next time we'll get to see Arcturus with our eyes is also that same time. It's like October 18th, 19th, 20th. The heliacal rising of Arcturus is in all that other same time I was talking about in October.
So it's gonna disappear and then reappear, basically.
Right. Basically, yeah.
Yeah, and see, I know that. See, I remember when you used this term, the helio, whatever, rising
it goes into the helio.
And then you showed me something. I think I went to your site actually, and now I understand what you're talking about. Because there's like a almost like a sun rising, kind of like a illumination. Then they come up within that illumination field. Right. That's why we can see them.
They're like with the sun. So like then we were getting sun codes all the time. It's like the sun is overlaid with Arcturus codes. That's another way to say it. Most of October.
This is cool. I'm digging it.
Well, you got more shows to do, friend. I mean, we could talk all day, but
yeah, I have two shows to do, and I have to go.
Thanks for. Hopefully, this was useful to.
You are amazing.
Useful to me.
Huh? What's that?
I said, hopefully, it's useful to the Soulogy community, and
it's fun. I'm telling you, I always knew that it. I just know things intuitively, like we all do, and especially if it's in line with our purpose. So. I always knew that, and that's why I'm really excited. So you're going to keep coming on every couple of weeks?
If you'll have me, I'm here.
Sure. We want you to, yeah. We want you to. I mean, this is look, and I can always tell by the amount of engagement, and your numbers always double every time you come on. So I think it's important because there's a lot, like even sitting with you this time, I've never got more than I did this time. I'm getting stuff, and I can see it in images. Like for instance, like what you're talking about, what we're made up of, and why you're different than me. My my structure is this light coding or whatever you want to call it. These cosmic cells. These are all, I can see how that happened. These are all created from all this stuff that we're looking at, the stuff that you bring to the table. So. And the fact that you bring it down to the human level is the best part. This is the best part of Soulogy to me, is people that can bring whatever they have to the table and be totally human, right? You're a mama bear, for Christ's sake. And oh my God, did you see after that show 2 weeks ago, did you see the mama bear stuff that came out?
I did actually. Hung sent me a bunch of stuff.
I saw like 5 different Rick Jewers. I saw like 4 other people talking about the mama bear. I'm like,
and then Shanine was talking about it the next day too. Like we were all like separately independent. I was like, that's confirmation, right?
Yeah,
it's like,
of course it is.
Mama bears.
Yeah, mama bears unite.
So this is that same energy, like the Statue of Liberty, Freedom Code, writing it into the reality.
Yeah. So everybody understand that until she won't have us, Julie's going to be coming on every 2 weeks and just chilling with us for an hour to an hour and a half. We won't be so on top of each other with shows. We just have more than one person scheduling, so we're having a bit of a difficulty. But so we've got Nicola Farmer, who's really cool, who's been on a couple times in the last few weeks. Really amazing. One of those old soul feminines that is down to earth and drops F-bombs, but has incredible information. She's coming on in 22 minutes. And then right after that show, about 20 minutes after that show, Franco will be on. So, So Julie, we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Hung tomorrow, right?
Hung's on tomorrow. I already put the post up. I'm really proud of myself.
I know you're so you're on top of it, Todd.
That's what happens when you stay up till 7 in the morning. But okay, I'm gonna go drink
Thank you
another
so
juice.
much.
Thank
Bye,
you. I love
everybody.
you.
Thanks for being here.
Appreciate you, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. And if it's not on the calendar, we'll work that out here on messaging. Okay.
Okay.
Is that cool? Okay. All right. Let me turn this off and